Hello, welcome to this introduction video of ROSbloX. If you want to develop a novel robot, chances are high that people recommend you using the robot operating system ROS. But when you have no prior experience in ROS, it can be quite challenging to get started. You might have to install a novel operating system on your computer. You need to have some basic knowledge about network interfaces. You need to have some experience with a terminal. You need to If you want to compile an open source RM, you need to manage libraries and their dependencies and know how to compile it. You need to know the concepts of ROS, like nodes, launch files, topics, services. And finally, if you want to successfully debug your robot, you need to have knowledge about the debugging tools and visualization tools that ROS offers. So learning all these elements can be quite challenging. So the entry burden to get started with developing a robot with ROS can be quite high. Now, the idea behind ROSbloX is to simplify the beginning to working with ROS. This is a ROSbloX. It's an example ROSbloX. It implements an IMU, so this is the IMU ROSbloX. And in the following minutes, I will show you how the ROSbloX can simplify the development of a robot with ROS. So this implements all the RMs and drivers for this IMU that we need to have. The question is, how can we get access to them? So here are three methods. We can just wire it with a USB cable to a computer. We can connect it with an Ethernet cable to our computer, and it's configured automatically. Or we can connect even many ROSblocks to a router and the computer to the router, so that we can then they can even communicate with each other. So let's go for the USB cable because it's the simplest. We have a USB-C cable here. It's plugged in my computer to my computer on the other end, and this end I plug into the ROSbloX. Now the IMU ROSbloX. Now it's starting up. We can see it's booting. Now the question is, how can we get access to the data that this sensor records? So there are three ways. There's web interface. That's the beginning tool. So this web interface, we can visualize the data and download it into files that this sensor produces. So we can get started, and this requires zero installation except the browser on the computer. If we want to stream the data live and use it in our program, there is a pip library, ROSlibPy, which we can install, and with less than 10 lines of code, we can stream it directly into our Python scripts. And if we are more familiar with ROS, we can also use a native ROS2 connection to communicate with this sensor. So let's take a look. The sensor is connected. I have nothing installed on my computer. And if I go to my browser and I type in my browser rosblocks.local, I have to wait a moment. I'm getting forward to do the web interface of this sensor. So what we can see here, it's an IMU. So an IMU measures the orientation of this sensor. And what we can see, we have these two coordinate systems. And when I rotate this sensor, you can see how the one coordinate system is rotating with respect to the other coordinate system. So the sensor works as expected, which is great. We can download some data and we can easily use this data in our scripts. We can even stream it live. Now, an IMU is a relatively simple sensor. There are others. So this is a simple example of ROSbloX. There are others that implement, for example, a stereo camera or a monocular camera. There are LiDAR ROSblocks. There are even ROSblocks that implement an algorithm which takes sensor measurements from other ROSblocks, processes them, and then issues commands to a motor ROSblocks. So if not everything is clear about ROSblocks yet, the takeaway message of this teaser video, of this introduction video, should be that with ROSblocks, you can overcome the entry burdens that you might face when working with ROS. So if you have ever struggled with the 6-7 complicated things that you have to learn in the beginning when getting started with ROS, if you came across these, chances are high, I hope that ROSbloX can help you to get started with developing your robot with ROS without having to worry too much about these challenges. If you like this video, if you want to get updates about the ROSbloX project, please subscribe, leave some comments. I would be very grateful for your feedback. Thanks a lot.